Hello, welcome everybody to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public announcements, we have one tonight. Kevin, I believe you had one?
Yes. I'd just like to take a minute to remember Weymouth Police Sergeant Michael Chesna, who lost his life to a senseless act of violence just 2 short years ago. As one of our neighboring communities and with his family active in the town of Abington, I'd ask if everyone would take a moment of silence to remember and honor his life. Can we all stand, take a moment of silence? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So our first order of business tonight is to go into executive session. So at this time, I'll accept a motion to enter into executive session to conduct a strategy session in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 2, and we'll return to return to open session following.
I'll make that motion to conduct strategy session preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 2.
A second.
Okay, we'll take this by roll call vote. So all those in favor of Mike?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Alex?
Yes.
Chairman says aye, so we'll now in executive session, and we'll return to open session following. Thank you. Welcome back to the Board of Selectmen meeting for July 27th. We just finished our executive session, and we move on to public appointments. In conformity with the requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Abington Board of Selectmen hereby gives notice that we'll hold a public hearing on Monday, July 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the town offices, 500 Glenowitz Way, Abington, to consider the request of Mass Electric Company, National Grid, Verizon New England, Incorporated, to install new pole number 1 through 50 on Central Street. So at this time, I'll accept a motion to open the public hearing portion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so we have somebody here from Verizon? National Grid? And same, okay. So you can stand up to the microphone. Let us know, what are you planning on doing Central Street wise?
Yep. So good evening. My name is Ryan Moskis. I'm here on behalf of National Grid to discuss 2 pole installation regarding the Massachusetts Grid Modernization Program. So the purpose of the Grid Modernization Program is for National Grid to install smart monitors on poles so they can monitor the feeder's performance. The smart monitors allow them access to real-time data such as outage and restoration notification. And typically this equipment is installed right outside of the substation and before the first transformer pole. So in the situation on Central Street, we are proposing to install a new pole 1-50 in between poles 2 and 1 because of the existing conditions, and this equipment has to be installed on poles that are straight line poles and don't have existing equipment on them in advance. So that is the reasoning for the new pole installation.
So this equipment is just a box that...
They're actually they're insulators basically, so they hold you'll see them like on the cable, and they just basically give them data on how the feeder is performing.
They don't make any noise or
Don't.
flash any lights?
This one's going right in front of the substation there.
Yeah, so the substation on that one is to the left. It's over by pole 2, I think it is. So obviously with the existing conditions, we couldn't find any likely poles to install those on. So that's why we had are proposing to install a new one.
So, and this isn't moving a pole, this is installing a brand new
Yep.
pole that's
Yep.
never been there before.
Yep, correct.
Any questions from the board? Any questions, any abutters or questions from the public? Please come up to the microphone for me if you could step away, sir, real quick. State your name and address.
My name is Silas Adams, and I live at 12 Central, right across from where they're planning on putting the pole.
Okay.
I just brought to his attention earlier that it says pole 1-50. And I looked on my property, and my property across the street has a pole that says 1-50, so I didn't know if they were moving the pole. Here's a picture of it right there. That's why I came to meet.
So is I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we, I was discussing with him, so that's his service.
Just for the viewers, I'm sorry, if you could step up to the microphone when he talk, I'm sorry, I know it's inconvenient.
Sorry. Yeah, so he brought it to my attention that that pole, that's his service pole. It is 1-50, so all we would have to do is just renumber the pole that we're gonna install. But yeah, that's something besides, we're not gonna do anything with that pole, so that pole
Okay.
has to stay. So,
Okay, so it would just
Yeah.
be a different number, you wouldn't have to
Yeah.
have another
Yep.
hearing, that's something you can
No.
change after we give you approval?
Yep.
And you have no issues
No,
further?
well, I do have an issue with the pole that's standing here now, because the lines are falling off on it.
yeah, he has like, his
It's been hit
service,
a couple times by cars,
Yeah,
and I can show you the picture shows that the pole, that's the electrical service.
Okay.
Which is hanging over, and this is taped on with black electrical tape, which is Verizon.
okay, have you brought that to their attention?
No, but he told me that I should probably call them and ask them.
Yeah, okay, and if you have any issues getting that corrected, let us know, maybe we have a number we can call
Okay,
to
thank you.
put pressure on them. Thank you. And so you all said, that's all,
Yep, that's
all
all.
the information there?
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? I'll take a motion then to accept or deny.
Close the hearing.
Thank you.
You want a motion to close the hearing?
Okay, yeah, before we do that, thank you, Alex. I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, I made a motion,
I'll
close the
second
hearing.
that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
All right,
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay, now I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the new pole. How do you want me to word it?
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the new pole 1-50 on Central Street?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Next public appointment is similar for 7:05, in conformity with the requirements of Mass General Law 166, Chapter 22, the Abington Board of Selectmen hereby gives notice that will hold a public hearing on Monday, July 27, 2020, at 7:05 at the town offices, 500 Glenwood Way, Abington, to consider the request of Mass Electric, National Grid, and Verizon New England to install one JO pole on Bedford Street, begin at a point approximately 131 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Bedford Street and Randolph Street, and continuing approximately 44 feet in southern direction. I'll take a motion to open that public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Public hearing's open, once again. Who's speaking on this one?
so, kind of a similar situation, based on existing, conditions, we, are gonna need a new pole installation on Bedford Street. So, and that's, I guess basically, basically the same spiel.
This is right in front of Mobile.
Yep, right in front of the mobile.
Only question I have is, this paper says installing 2 JO pole, and this one says installing 1 JO pole.
What are you looking at? I'm sorry.
This one says 2, and this one says 1.
So on Bedford Street, so it's only gonna be one, on Bedford Street, because of this situation, there, I can find out if you on this one. We're actually, with the way the feeder is positioned, is it goes in 2 different directions. So in one direction, we're just replacing an existing pole and then installing the feeder monitors. And then on this situation, we're gonna have to, install a new JO pole. So realistically, there's only supposed to be 1 pole that's gonna be installed and 1 that's gonna be replaced. So I think that's why.
Oh, okay.
It's on that. So there's gonna be 2 polls, for this work request, but, there's only gonna be 1 poll that's gonna
One
be
new
new.
pole.
1 new poll.
Okay, and one replaced pole. Okay,
Correct. Yep,
thanks for,
no
So you're
problem.
taking this one out.
That one, no, so that one's, both those are gonna stay, and the one in the middle that doesn't have the X in it, that one's gonna be a new one.
That's the new one,
Yep.
okay.
which is the one that you're replacing?
That one's not shown on that because, just because it exists, so we didn't have to do the petition for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why, I'm assuming that's why the confusion is there.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm set.
Any abutters, people from the public want to speak on this? No? With that said, I will accept the motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, close the public hearing.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
All right,
All those opposed? That's unanimous, being closed. I'll take a motion to accept or deny the poll.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the poll on Bedford Street, say aye.
All right.
Unanimous again. Thank you. Our final public appointment for tonight, in conformity with requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, the Abington Board of Selectmen hereby gives notice that it will hold public hearing on Monday, July 27th at 7:10 at the town offices, 500 Glennon's Way, Abington, to consider the request of Mass Electric Company, National Grid, and Verizon New England Incorp. to relocate poles beginning at a point approximately 10 feet northeasterly of the center line of the intersection of Chestnut and North Quincy Street. I'll take a motion to open this public hearing.
Motion to open the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Once again, our gentleman from Verizon?
I didn't have this one, to be honest. I was only given the 2 that I spoke upon.
You want to take a look at it?
Yeah,
You might as well do it if you're here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think this is for, they're
Here,
putting a roundabout, a rotary at Chestnut and North Quincy, and it's probably something to do with that, I'm assuming?
I would assume,
It actually might be something different.
Yeah, Verizon.
they've been working up there, it's a
Yeah,
mess.
this doesn't look like, what we've
Send them
been,
out, and if you don't get anything
We've been
back,
working
you know,
on.
and I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you.
this actually might be a different thing for National Grid.
Is it in Abington or is it in Brockton?
According to the map,
Further into Abington.
it's on the Abington side. According to the map, it's right in front of 500 Chestnut, which is,
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
side of the
okay.
road is Abington.
Yeah,
Well,
that's not
we
part of
can
my-
still approve it without the applicant here. Can you start it?
Sure.
Are there any abutters here that want to speak on that? No, so nobody seemed to, they were all informed. Nobody seems to have a problem with it.
I'm assuming this is the construction that's going on there
Yeah,
now.
this is exactly where they're putting in that rotary, and that we've taken some land, eminent domain in that area.
I'm assuming they're moving some of the poles on that from the looks of it.
Yeah, this one is 2 JO poles that it looks like they're moving
I don't want to
just,
hold up. the
just
other one.
over.
And they don't appear to be moving very far.
No, it doesn't see, it's not moving to
Hearing
somebody
from
else's property.
Abington Cable, we need to speak closer to our microphones, please.
We need to speak closer. Thank you. So any questions on the board for this? No, there's no abutters here to speak on it.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
We didn't, actually.
We haven't done that yet. What?
Oh,
Oh, we opened that hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the motion is on to close it. Did I hear somebody second it?
Second.
All those in favor of closing the hearing?
All right.
All those opposed? Hearing's closed.
motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion approved. Okay, that was our last public hearing of the night. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Unless you want to stick around for us to approve our meeting, agenda meeting minutes.
I would, but.
It's hard to get fans in the building these days. All right, next item up for action discussion, vote to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2020. You have the minutes in front of you. I'm sure you've looked at it over your weekend.
That's all we did over the weekend.
Yes, I thought so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of July 13th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It is unanimous. Next action discussion item, request for special municipality employee status for reviewing engineers.
So my question is, who are reviewing engineers?
Well, let me answer that for you.
I didn't know you had such a department, so.
No, all right, so I'm sure you're all aware from time to time, developers come in, they want to do a large project, like I believe it's 0 Summer Street. We currently have a project going on, and multi-unit development. The town will hire an outside engineering firm at the expense of the applicant that'll review that applicant's engineering. And from time to time, it happens, because in this particular case, a traffic study was submitted by the applicant. We want to hire a reviewing engineer to review the traffic study. The person that we hired is working for somebody else on a separate project, not related to this project, on the opposite side. Doesn't happen a lot, but I mean, there's only so many traffic engineers out there. The one that we hired and the one that the person who hired for the other project, he happens to be probably one of the best traffic engineers in the state, widely sought after. So I think that's why it won't be unusual for that name. Van Ness and Associates, Dirk, I think his name is
Jeffrey Dirk.
Jeffrey Dirk.
Jeffrey, yeah.
Yeah, so in this particular case, on one project, he's working for the town. On a totally separate project, he's working for the applicant, which, to avoid having any sort of, problem, we can appoint him for that project only to be a special municipal employee, and as long as, he's only working for us on that particular project, it's okay.
Now, we can't give him that status. We have to give it to all engineers.
I think,
The blanket policy right in the charter, you can't give it to an individual.
It's
Yeah.
not to a person, it's got to be to, actually,
and I think, it's not likely that I don't know that anybody's ever come to you before. It's pretty easy there, there's a lot of companies other than specialists like this, that the town can avoid hiring, usually for civil and matters. Most people either specialize in working for a town or municipality and do a review, or they are on the other side. So I don't think there's any harm in doing it. I would certainly want to see this, person working on behalf of the town.
so who's the other one that Liz says she
The
had?
name never came to me, so she never followed up. She said that if it did happen, she was going to, let them know.
So can we do this specifically for the traffic engineer currently working on whatever project it is?
I don't think so. I think it would be all traffic engineers.
I think you'd have to go with all of them.
I think maybe if you wanted to do it to be, you could maybe do it specifically for traffic engineering.
Right.
Yeah. And it's only until next May anyway, because it has to be reviewed every year. If they want it, they have to apply by May 25th, I believe, of each year, asking for special municipal employee. So I wouldn't have a problem doing this. Obviously, I mean, we need.
There is I don't know, I kind of want to take a second to read this, and I wish I did it before the meeting, I'm sorry, but before I vote on this, there is a letter here from KP Law
Yep.
that's kind of explaining it.
Oh, that could,
And I'm sorry, I didn't see it till just now.
yeah, it wasn't in the right order, I think.
Here they are, municipal.
Yeah, it's a position, not currently not the individual.
And it would just be for engineering consultants to the planning board.
Correct. So, yeah, it would be just the engineers for the planning board.
Yeah, which I
That's how you
understand
read
is
it?
the only two, yeah. Yeah, it's, KP Law makes it very clear, and they, I'll read the summary just for anybody watching at home. It's the opinion of KP Law that unless the position of engineering consultant to the planning board is designated, then they wouldn't be able to take that. But if the position is so designated, the two engineers could have private clients with matters before the planning board, provided it is handled consistently and also represents clients before other town boards as well. But there's very tight restrictions on, this does give them a little bit of protection from being sued, but there's still very slight conflict of interest laws that they'd be held liable for. So I don't think this puts us at any risk. And it protects us and allows us to be able to get the best person for the job, so. So that said, I mean, I'd be in favor of it, but I'll accept the motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the designation of special municipal employee for the engineers hired by the planning board.
I will second that.
Any discussion on it further? And we'll take a vote. All those in favor of granting special municipal employee status to the engineers for the planning board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes 4-1. And next up is the town manager report, so Scott, go ahead.
All right, well, I submitted to you, or to the board, a list of goals and objectives. I tried to get it to you Friday, so you'd have something fun for the weekend.
Spent all weekend.
In case you wanted to redline it and add to it, do whatever. So essentially, over the past, 3 months of getting here, and trying to get acclimated to some of the things that, and the processes that are in place, These are sort of the things that I've looked at that really need to be dealt with in sort of an immediate sense, because this will be our foundation from where we can build. And as we sort of alluded to earlier, some of these things are just because, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but it really needs to be codified with policies and with a specific set of processes that we all have to follow and that we can do internally. So the first one being centralizing human resources. Again, at this point, there's a lot of departments that are responsible for doing their own hiring and posting of their jobs, and there's within the personnel plan that we have, there's some holes in that refer to documents that aren't necessarily there. And there's not really a central depository, a place where this is all going, and it should be really all ending at my office for all departments. We need a good, clear, concise policy, personnel policy, code of conduct, and an employee handbook. And all those items should be given to everybody as they are onboarded in a standard manner that we follow. And, jobs should be posted, and there's a lot of documentation that should go along with that should be
You have some of those things from either Duxbury, Whitman, that would help us.
I have a lot of them, and I have quite a few of the policies that I'm going to put together. I want to work with Jamie on a few of these things that we're going to go over, that, as far as how we're going to deal with it, because I want to give this board sort of a final document that we can say has been vetted with Labor Council, and that you can all vote as, this is our policy and this is what we're going to follow from here on in. And obviously, it'll be a living document that has federal laws and state laws change that we can add to them. And procurement would be the next one. Centralizing procurement is most of the departments are seem to be responsible, by and large, for procuring their own supplies and services. Sue Moken has already started and was already appointed as the procurement officer designee by the previous town manager. So I'm going to work with her, because I did have a really comprehensive set of rules and policies that I'd like to adopt for this town, that I think, again, it will create just a central person that everybody's going to have to go through. So, and it sets up a very, a tight way that things get approved, depending on the dollar amount. So, purchase orders won't actually even be able to be issued unless you're following these guidelines. And again, they're all in accordance with Mass General Law.
Is this gonna, centralized procurement, is this gonna require us to hire a new person or cost more money to the town?
No, so many of these goals, and especially the next two that I'm gonna bring up, Sue Moken has been working with me from day one, helped in the transition here when I didn't have anyone to help with the transition. And also, I think, as most of you noticed at town meeting, has been sort of filling in the holes on a lot of these things that we're going to go through. So my hope in her, with what she's been doing, is I hope to recognize her and change their title, or her, from town accountant to finance director, and possibly even, I'd like it to be finance director, assistant town manager. But I do have to work through that with Jamie, and again, that'll be presented to this board at some point. But at the very least, it would be finance director going forward, only because the functions, and as I go through this, you'll see a lot of the things she's been doing is acting and functioning that way. There will be no additional compensation for it. There was at a point in time when I think some of the duties were recognized and compensated for in the past, and I think we all feel comfortable that I think it's commensurate with with what she's doing. So it's really just a title that is very essential and recognizes the hard work that she's put in and the assistance that she's been to me.
You know, I mean, we had an assistant town manager, which that position was, you know, not renewed, whatever you want to call it, and all these duties were put on other people, you know, so now, you know, you're saying we want to go back to assistant town manager necessarily.
Well, no, you know, what I'm saying is, it is actually the duties that are being performed by that person are more commensurate with that finance director, assistant town manager title. It would just be more recognizing what's actually being done. There's no one else to put these duties on. We're out of people.
Well, we had an assistant town manager.
Which is gone. And, but again, like I said, to me, it's more of rewarding someone for what I've seen over the last 90 days. And again, over the last 90 days, I've gotten a lot of assistance from all the department heads. You know, they have been very helpful, very good, in a very difficult time. You know, if you remember correctly, we were closed. And many town halls still are closed. You know, and a lot of what led us up to opening as early as we did was work that was put forward by Sue and by the other department heads assisting her. You know, and I think it's important. I think it's important that, A, that we let the town know that, you know, we're up here and we're running and we're operating and we're doing everything we can, including direction by this board, that we want to be open and we want to get back to work, and we're doing it in as safe a manner as we can, although I hear that we have to make some minor adjustments to our safety shields.
True.
Which we will.
I'm just saying, if we're looking at maybe going back that route again, you know, would we post an assistant town manager and fill that spot again so that everyone else could kind of go back to their duties? Or do you want to just?
I think that's something that I'd want to discuss.
Kevin, can you pull that microphone closer to you? Nobody can hear you on TV.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
I think it's something that I definitely want to discuss, if it was a full position with Jamie, on how we would want to do it, and then, but again, there's, you know, as we look towards the budget, there isn't going to be money for, you know, new positions. A very important position that we actually had to cut out of the budget was the planning director that everybody was hoping for, and if anything, I do think we do need to fill that hole. That is a person that could provide us with a lot of support for grant writing, grant reviews. Again, Sue has been invaluable in taking care of some of them, but there's many more opportunities. I've already had meetings with the town manager of Rockland and the town administrator over in Whitman to see if there was any sort of a flavor for maybe a shared regional planner, because it would sort of benefit our interests, particularly with Rockland, as far as, you know, we have land at the base that's going to end up being rezoned. We have the Route 18 corridor that's coming down into Whitman that, you know, when that's done and we have a superhighway out there, you know, it would be beneficial for us all to have a planner to help us decide, all right, here's what, you know, we got in our master plan and what we thought things should look like, and how do we get from that point to this point. So again, money's not coming in, though. As we know, as we discussed, we're not going to have a lot of money to fill these positions, so
What's your plan for the human resources?
Me,
You.
and a lot of assistance from Jamie Kenny,
Okay.
yeah.
That's short term. What about long term? Would you like to see that position filled?
So, yeah, you know, long-term, I'd love to professionalize the town.
Do you think that's something we could share as well, like a part-time human resources here that maybe worked here part-time in Whitman or Rockland?
I actually talked
that be
to
too
a
soon?
selectman over in Rockland about that.
Yeah.
And they said their human resource person that they hired, it's 9 to 5 every day.
Straight out, yeah.
We're a
Straight
small
out.
town, but we're a big town. We have a lot of
Yeah, I
employees.
mean,
and
Well-
Abington doesn't have a lot of things and positions that some other towns around here have.
And I think a lot of the discussions and conversations we've had amongst this board and just in general probably lead towards a good human resource manager over the years might have helped avoid some issues. Certainly, it's pointed at in the MRI study
Right.
that it would be great to have a central human resources. So, yeah, and in the best of all worlds, we would do that, but it's very difficult, again, finding funding for such a thing. And, you know, like I said, it would be great. And as you can see, a lot of what I'm going down here leads to the fact that we just, you know, you don't have a lot of staff, you have a lot of people trying to do a lot of different things, but, you know, from what I've heard, and just from what I've heard from the desires of this board, and what I can see and the observations I made over the last 90 days, these are sort of the critical core things that we want to deal with now. And that gives us our foundation and basis for a lot of other things that we want to do.
I mean, that's, and again, not to go back over it again, but this, you know, I think we've all been for it, and we've seen that position that was there, and it got dissolved, and, you know, other people got more responsibility, so, you know, by the previous town manager. But another thing you brought up, I know this board had voted on it last year, and myself and Ken Coyle were part of it, is reaching out to other surrounding towns and talking about if they wanted to, if there any interest in sharing services or anything like that. And, you know, I think it's something that this board would, you know, I'm still interested, and I think it's a good thing that we could put together and maybe have some people talk to other towns if they're interested, especially with the pandemic and everything going on now.
I mean, that was absolutely the conversation that I had with Rick Whitman and Rockland, and right now we are sharing veteran services. We, you know, I've heard some issues from previous board members not necessarily happy with that, so we are relooking at that, and I've had a meeting with Frank Lynham on that. We're also, you know, I know in the past we shared full services with the dog, or the animal control officer, and so there are different avenues, but you also get into, you know, where are you going to house somebody, and then that town always seems to be more benefited by the position than the other towns that are chipping in. And, you know, I'm missing a wonderful town meeting out in the field in Whitman-Hanson tonight.
Yeah, we could have changed our meeting for you.
You know, and they're having some big issues over having a regional school district. So it's not, I mean, as great as it seems, sometimes it doesn't work out. And particularly in the human resources case, like Jim said, I've, you know, in the jurisdiction that I left had a full-time human resources officer, a human resource manager, and a benefits coordinator. And I assure you that they were never a dull moment for any of them. They were busy, and, you know, population-wise, not much of a difference, but in number of employees-wise is probably a little bit more. But again, it's a very involved process now, and it's, you know, it can lead to some expensive issues if it's not dealt with properly.
Right.
All right, so then beyond procurement, we have a review and update of financial policies. We have them in Whitman and in other towns. They're really just sort of a, you know, best management practices on what we're doing and how we deal with it. And I think, not that I found any problems with the way that the town is handling it. You guys have been really good. You hit your estimates on, you know, on revenues, and you're, you know, you're great with, you know, what you do with your free cash, and we are good at putting money into stabilization, but a set of a codified policy that we can work on that sort of gives us a, you know, a framework, but one that also gets handed down from board to board. So when this board, or when the finance committee switches up or new members come on, they also have sort of that framework and that guide work that they can follow. Capital Improvement Committee is something that came up during budget talks, that I think that, you know, it's essential that we, again, work with the Finance Committee and Sue to establish a Capital Improvement Committee. And it may be, you know, how we're going to make it up and what the makeup of it is, I'm not sure. But it is called for. I mean, it is right in our own bylaw that, you know, we have something, some sort of a committee, and I think it's important. We, you know, we want to have that sort of long-range forecast for this board and for the Finance Committee to work off of, to know what's coming down the pike as far as capital expenses go. I think we need to probably bring in a consultant to help us maybe look at our inventory, if we haven't done so, as far as buildings, just to see where they are. I think the individual department heads fire chief, police chief, our senior center director, our library director, and here it's, Sue and Wayne they've all been building managers and dealing with the buildings, and they've been doing what they can to keep their buildings afloat and looking good and in good shape. With that being said, we need to actually bring someone in to tell us where are our long-term capital costs? What's coming down the pike? When is these windows gonna have to be replaced? When we have to repoint the brickwork? When's the siding gonna fall off of the police station?
Now,
Those kind of things,
already
we need to,
budgeted
so we want to, work to sort of have that document in front of us that every year we can look at when we're allocating our free cash and what we're gonna do and what projects are more important. We want to sort of have that 5-year look ahead to keep going down each time. I met with the Affordable Housing Trust Group. They actually we got a lot of the legwork was done by the previous town manager. We didn't have the article for some reason. It looked like it was pretty well prepared. The trust document looks like one that I had worked with in the past. It was a great document. I sent it back to town council for review, so I would hope to have that in front of town meeting, for our next town meeting, to have it accepted, and it will set up the trust. We allocated some money for the trust, so I think it would be nice to do something in conjunction with the trust and with the center school building to try and, come up with a plan to get that developed, or where we could do a partnership with them. We could use some of the money that is in that trust to put it out for a consultant to help us prepare a development program that we'd like followed, and we could put it out to bid. And at that point, once it's out to a developer, the proceeds from that we would put back into the trust to cover any expenses, plus whatever we could split with the general fund and the trust. But it would help get something that started. We don't want the building to just sit there, but, we also have to do a little background of what's going on up there. Obviously, the implementation of the MRI study, we want to work with the chief, the deputy chief. There were 50-something recommendations in there, and I think this board is, going to vet that a little bit more. And I think what we're going to have to decide is exactly which one of those, or all of those, or how many of those recommendations we want to go forward with, and how we want to implement them in a sort of a time frame on how we're going to do it. But, it's definitely a great piece of work, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it's, the town should be commended. I mean, there's many other cities and communities, and municipalities that are out there that are trying to, all of a sudden figure out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong with their police departments, and, we're well ahead of that curve, and we've already gone out there, and this board's, sort of put the best foot forward to say, look, we want to make this right. So I'm looking forward to that. The fire station site selection and funding, again, there's a committee that, they got a big task in front of them, and it's going to take a while. It's obviously a very big ticket item, but again, that building that the gentlemen are working in, ladies and gentlemen, is not in very good shape. It can hardly, that's bursting at the seams. I do not and will not allow what happened in, Plymouth to happen to this board or to this town. So I want to work with them, and I've got a lot of experience doing that, with pushing a project like this forward. We have to find a location, and then we have to get it into town meeting. But yeah, it's, we'll work with Sonia to try and figure out numbers as far as when debt's coming off, and put together some sort of proposal on what this will cost in the long run. And then finally, community outreach and public relations. I want to make sure that the citizens out there know that we're here to meet their daily needs, that we are here, we want to listen. Unfortunately, it's been a little difficult to do that. I have started doing some segments with AbCam to get out there and meet with.
We watched that
Was
this
it?
weekend.
Did you watch all 20 minutes? or?
It wasn't quite 20 minutes. I think it was less than 10 by the time.
17.
By the time well, that's probably
A
preferable.
lot of you
because
ended on the cutting.
I think it was 9 minutes.
I'm not quite as engaging as the pizza boys, so I think that's why.
Don't say you sanded so high at first. Why don't you start with Abington's Got Talent, then work your way up to the big boy? Carry on.
We didn't just go into Pizza Boys, you know.
Okay.
You had a lot of failures before, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, but overall, what I'm looking forward to is, the library, they're opening, and I want to get out there and have some time when people can come in and sit and have coffee sessions or whatever down the senior center at the library. I certainly want to let people know that we do have an open door policy, and we want to hear what they want, what they need, and how we can address their needs. So, to that, if whatever I can do. I finally figured out how to post something on Facebook today that I think went out, and
Now you're starting to sound like Rick LaFont.
well,
I don't know how to use Facebook.
it's not that I don't know how to use it, I just don't know how to use it in a way that it won't,
On the town page you're talking?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did, I did find the secret password.
One other thing I'd like to look into, and by the way, this is very good. I'm very happy with the goals and objective and the explanations. Several years ago, we talked about doing a total review of our zoning bylaws. And I don't know if we actually were going to hire someone, a consultant, to work on that, if we set aside money. I'm not sure what happened with that, but I think our zoning bylaws definitely need to be reviewed, and I think we need a professional to do it.
Well, KP Law, they have some, matter of fact, Amy Questle was working on them when I left Duxbury. They certainly have the bandwidth and the capacity to do a great job, so we can ask them, we can definitely engage them if that's something that the town thinks needs to be done.
We've piecemealed our bylaws over the years.
Most towns do.
And they do, but I think, and a lot of small towns have a lot of non-conforming lots and different things, and we've got the Route 18 expansion coming and everything. I just think it's time that we really need to review our zoning bylaws. And, we've just rewritten them and written over things over the years and stuff, and I'm not, saying anything negative about anyone, but I just think we really need a professional to take a look at it.
Well, what I would recommend is that you have sort of a land use summit where you would meet with representatives from this board, representatives from the planning board, and representatives from conservation to discuss it.
And zoning.
Yeah, and zoning, to discuss it and decide, if this is something that you want to pursue, put a committee together, and then we would engage KP Law to look at it. I would prefer that you had a planner involved, but I don't know when that's going to happen, so, but that, that's
Could
a huge
happen
part
once
of it.
you review all the financials.
Yeah, that's, well, and a lot's gonna pivot on the information that we get in, when we get it, and it may be September, maybe October, maybe November, but when we finally get some budget numbers from the state, we know what actually they are going to give us for the unrestricted aid. When we find out what is coming out of Washington as far as is there revenue replacement, are they going to help us out? Because that'll make a huge difference when we know those things. It makes it easier for us to plan going forward, and then maybe going into next year's town meeting, maybe that position is back in there. But, but a good start is, like I said, I think we bring in a facilitator probably, whether it be from KP Law or the Citizens Planning Training Collaborative. They would definitely provide you with a facilitator, that the members of this board, you could, because of the size of the group, I think it'd just have to be a couple representatives from each board, unless we just push this off until March, when,
Yeah, I'm not saying.
But,
now,
but that
something
is sort of how
over the
you would
next
want to
year,
start
I'd
it.
like to see if we could get started on that. And speaking of COVID money and stuff, what's going on with Plymouth County?
So Sue did submit, I think I had sent it to everybody was it 900 plus or minus. I don't believe, as far as I know, as of today, we haven't heard back. They haven't scheduled anything yet, but I don't anticipate any problems. They seem to be very good. I think if anything was missing, we certainly have more than enough documentation on everything, so I'm not anticipating any problems. I would expect that we would hear something. If we haven't heard it yet, we would hear something probably this week.
And are we working on phase 2 of that for the veterans and seniors?
That was phase 3.
That's 3.
Phase 3, but yeah, I have,
What's
phase
phase
2 is just more of phase
More
1.
of
It's
one,
sort of
okay.
rolled over. And I did have a conversation with the library, with the senior center, and with our veterans agents to let them all know. A lot of the stuff that they've done up until this point, and a lot of their reimbursements have been already reimbursable. So now it's really a matter, we might call them out of what we've already put in for, because we've already asked her.
I see.
What have your expenses been to date? What have,
In the first one, you're saying?
right.
Yeah, I see.
So, but then there may be other programs, and we'll start looking into that. What other programs can we use the money for that might be specific towards, does it help them with housing needs and, things like that, or, we worked with Rockland through Sonia Hodges, the treasurer collector, worked with Rockland on a grant that was awarded recently that'll help put a lot of money towards, I think it was St. Vincent de Paul, the food pantry, which is obviously, a huge thing that's being stressed out right now. So we're glad to see that, and a lot of good work from her.
And someone reached out to me and asked about any rental assistant. Are there any programs that we're looking at for that? I know the town of Easton is doing one in cooperation with a couple of other towns. Have you heard anything about that?
I've not heard anything about it. And typically, that would be something that, your Affordable Housing Trust would work on that isn't really set up yet. If it's senior assistance, and if there's any way that we could use some of the relief money, I can talk to Sue about that.
I don't have anyone in mind or anything.
But,
It's just someone
yeah,
asked me.
I have not seen it, but, and that's something that, I could also reach out to Housing Authority. They were, had a representative here the other night, sorry, I forget her name, but I could reach out to them, because again, they may be the first ones to hear about that,
Right.
as opposed to us.
Anything else from the board for the town manager?
Keep up
Scott?
the good work.
Anything else from the board?
Nothing from me.
That's the last thing on the agenda, so. Where do we go now?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion to adjourn, made and seconded. Anybody want to discuss that motion? Didn't think so. All those in favor? Opposed? Good night. Thank you very much.
And have a pleasant tomorrow.